There we go. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to part 2, Taiga and Mach 1, Day in the Data in the Day-to-Day. So this is part 2 of a series that we started working with Meyer and Dave Linder at Mach 1. We had a really great session about a month ago, and for anybody who did not attend that and wants a copy of that, we are happy to send that on to you. So we are excited to get going, and what we're going to do is, first of all, let me click my, there we go. Let's do a little intro of the speakers. While we are going through the presentation, there is a chat feature. Please feel free to drop in any questions you have. We can either we'll be moderating that throughout the course of the session, and then also can answer some of those live at the end. So let's go ahead and start with the speakers. So myself, I am Jenny Hill. I am head of customer success here at Taiga, and have the pleasure of introducing our speakers. We have Meyer, CEO at Mach 1, and also Dave Linder, who's COO. They're going to speak here about all the great things that are going on at Taiga, and we also, with Taiga and Mach 1, and we also have John Oakley, who is CIO and one of the founders, who I'm sure most of you have met. So welcome, gentlemen. We are excited to get going. All right, so one of the things that Morgan from our marketing group just dropped in the chat is the link to the first session. So if you don't have that, you can find it there as well. But what we're going to do is a little quick recap of what we covered in part 1 of this series. So we talked all about how Taiga connects and standardizes data across your systems. That was the main focus. And you have the little photo here, a picture here that shows us here in the middle and all the different connections that we provide. We also touched on the problem of data fragmentation. So there's a tremendous amount of data and information that you all are presented with on a daily basis, and you've got to make sure that data is clean, and you want to be able to get it quickly and be able to react and make decisions quickly using that. So we covered that topic. And then Alan went through talking about AI and how he utilizes AI with Taiga and to conduct his business and all the great things that he's been doing with it since he has been a client of ours from just about the very beginning. So we appreciate that. All right, so that's the quick recap. And today we are going to actually talk about what do we do day to day? How do Alan and Dave use Taiga on a day-to-day basis? And then, get you all through some steps of what you can do next and how you can maximize the information that you're getting out of Taiga. So, Alan, I'm going to turn it over to you for a second. Before we get into the specific use cases, would you mind sharing, setting the stage for those who may not have been on the first call, talk a little bit about the relationship that you have with Taiga?
Yeah, thanks, Jennifer. So Alan Meyer, CEO of Mach 1. I don't remember when I got the title of CEO. I think my dad came in and told me I was a CEO like in 2017 or something like that. But the Bill Ivers sent me a spam email, and usually don't reply to those, but I called Bill up and we had a phone call, and this was way back when. I don't even know what year this was, John, but you guys had told me at that time that
2021 or something. Yeah.
We were working with some people that I don't even think are in the industry anymore, but we were trying to we have all these data points and all these different sources, and we were trying to crack the egg of trying to pull all this data into one central source and then be able to take that and bring that out to store level. Because there's one thing is having the data. Two, if you're not getting that downstream where the people are making the real world decisions on what causes the revenue to go up or down, at the end of the day, if I know it, I'm a very small part of a very big company. So we'd been trying to do that for multiple years, me and Dave, and tried and failed. And Bill said he'd have me live with my first site within the week. And I mean, almost as just a Pepsi challenge, because I didn't think there was any possible way that was going to happen. I said, sure, let's try this. And I think 2 days later, we had a live feed of our transactions from our point of sale into a web portal for us to manipulate and look at it any way we want. And I mean, it was one of those oh wow moments for me personally. And so we ran it as that pilot for a couple months, took it out company wide, I think by the end of the year, so like 2 months later, and watched Taiga evolve over these many years. And one of the things Bill sold me on then, which is still true today as much as it was then, it's one version for all. You know, it's not, hey, you have to do this upgrade. No, by the way, you know, write me a big fat check if you want this upgrade. It is some other Taiga customer on the West Coast comes up with some great idea, and all of a sudden I open up my Taiga website and hey, look, they created something, and I didn't even know that was being created. And that's a constant theme of our relationship with Taiga over these years.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Now let's get it. Oh, John, I'm sorry. Did you have, John?
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, yeah, I really appreciate the background there, Alan. It's like, you know, as you move through your journey of, you know, getting to like maturity with being data driven, you know, you start with that whole, you know, do I have the data? Where is the data? It's here, it's there, whatever. And then it's really cool as we kind of work with our customers, you know, over the years, that they get to the point where they're just, you know, it's not about that anymore. It's more of like, okay, I know I have this, I want to use this in this unique way, or how do I go and apply this with that over there to solve this problem? And it just really helps us to be continually innovative on our part as well, to have that relationship with all of our customers like you guys.
Yeah, one quick use case, John. It's not on this list, but there is another big partner that we bring our data to you. And I think it's just a perfect example of, I mean, how you guys are as a software, but I think more importantly is just who you are as a company and a culture and a team. Because there is one database that is notoriously difficult to do anything with that I will not name. But I talked to John's brother and John and said, man, it'd be great if we could pull this into Taiga. And I think at the time, I don't even know if you guys knew the platform, but it literally was, well, let's just jump in and see if we can figure this out. And I think it was like 10 days to 2 weeks later, we were pulling live data from that platform. I honestly thought that was never going to happen. So it's very much hey, let's see if we can figure this out type of relationship.
Yep, and we're doing new integrations like that pretty much day in day out every month, and so, you know, it's a point of sale here, or it's a loyalty program, or it's a, you know, labor management system. It's all about being constantly curious about how do we give you a full picture.
And we appreciate, Alan, you bringing us to, you know, ideas that you've come up with that we've been able to work towards and help you solve the problem for, speed things up. So for any clients, you know, any ideas you have, you may think it's crazy, it would never happen, bring it to us, because John loves a challenge.
I love the crazy ideas.
Yeah, like to you know, a lot of the stuff, that some of the new things that are in Taiga are as a result of John and Alan working together, and Dave as well, to get it integrated for other people to be able to use. So we really appreciate that. All right, let's get into the first use case. So we have a number of them that we're going to go through. I think we have, let me check, like 4 or 5 use cases. If we run short on time, Alan and Dave have been kind enough to agree to do a part 3 if we need to. So we want to make sure we spend enough time on each one of these. So if you have some questions that come up regarding each one of these use cases, drop them in the chat. Let's answer them, and we'll, you know, if we have to do another part, we'll do that as well, because we want you guys to see all the benefits. So let's start with the first one, and Alan's going to talk a little bit about this. This is a dashboard. You know, what does Alan do at the beginning of every day? What are the big things that you check, Alan? If you wouldn't mind sharing with us a little bit about what your day-to-day looks like with Taiga, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you kind of look at, you know, my role in the company, I'm mostly looking at things from a 10,000 foot view. Dave is the COO, so he is he's running all operations, and he's the buyer for everything non-food service and non-fuel. So all the different category management and the granular details, that is definitely going to be Dave's umbrella of expertise. For me, what I do every morning is I want to see how our stores performed the previous day that it rolls into a month. So I'm looking at transactions broken out inside, outside, percentage of loyalty, inside sales, fuel gallons, truck diesel gallons. I'm looking at how these stores are trending relative to the other stores in the company. I'm looking at how the company as a whole is trending over time. So that is pretty much the first thing I do every morning. The other thing that I do pretty much every day too is, like I said, Dave's the buyer for everything other than food service. So the food service rep reports directly to me. So I kind of think of myself a little bit as the Dave Linder for food. So I'm looking at what Dave does for the other categories. I kind of do that on a food service basis. So I'm looking at how each category is doing. So whether that be breakfast, lunch, we have Little Caesars, how the categories did, how they're doing by location, how that trends over time, and how it compares store to store. That is pretty much how I start each one of my mornings.
Awesome. All right. Thanks for that. And now we're going to get into if anybody has any questions, again, please let us know on that. Then the next one we're going to get into is Dave.
Go ahead,
John.
I'd love to hear how Dave starts his morning too.
Yeah. Dave, how do you start your morning?
John, very, very similar to what Alan described. Now, one thing that I'm probably looking at is going to be the monthly promotions that we have going on, and seeing how they're trending, seeing how they're performing. The other thing that I really like to look at, I spend a lot of time in brand detail and product scorecard. And the brand detail, a lot of what I'm looking at in there, especially when you're doing negotiations with vendors and manufacturers, is what is their percent of market share. Vendor is, they're going to show up and they're going to tell you, okay, here's the latest Nielsen report for your area. And there you go, Jennifer. That's exactly what I'm talking about. So you can see in that slide where Monster Energy has a 34.68%, assuming that is the energy category. So a lot of times I'm looking at that because that can change quite quickly. So that's a lot of what I look at on a daily basis. And a lot of it is just also dictated by what's going on. I mean, today, I'm working with Dart, and they requested Velocity for some proprietary cups that I wanted to get a quote on. Within a couple of strokes, I had that information and was able to send it over to them. So it just, the day pretty well dictates, but it's so easy, so convenient. In a couple of keystrokes, you can go grab whatever data that you're looking for, export it, and send it out.
So Dave, when you're meeting with a vendor, let's say they're on site, do you actually show them what's in Taiga, or do you show them those numbers, or do you have those in your back pocket and you're just referring to them? And then what kind of reaction do they give you when you're
Yeah, that's a great question. So today, most of the vendors that I meet with on a regular basis, they already know that I'm using Taiga. I've showed it to them. So it's almost expected for me to pull that up during a meeting as we go through and discuss whatever it is that they're presenting. But sometimes I will even do an export and send it to them. For example, just here not very long ago, when you look at the nicotine pouch category, Zen had owned that market for quite some time. And there was a big switch in the market about 3 months ago. Well, before Taiga, that I don't know when I would have realized that. So when I'm able to go in and look at that on a regular basis, and then all of a sudden I can see, oh, there's a huge shift in market share, then that changes that conversation with both of those vendors. And it also creates a conversation for store level when it comes to ordering and making sure we're not running out of product.
John, do you have any?
Can I add something real quick to our original conversation on the AI stuff? I think this, and Dave, you do this way more than I do, so I'd love your thoughts on it. But food service is one that we've really done a lot of deep dives on AI, and it works really well because we have about 12 menu items at 12 stores. When you get into the categories of what we're looking at here with the energy and all the different flavors and the monstrous amount of sales, when you start trying to push data like all of our energy sales into an AI agent like ChatGPT or Claude, it can get overwhelming and it can take forever. So to just take the time, me and Dave have been messing with this, just to take the timestamp of all of your energy sales for all of your locations for a month. I mean, you will use your usage limits on AI before it ever finishes your first question. So, like for what Dave's accomplishing here, to try to take that amount of data and push into AI, would take forever, and it's a very arduous process where with you guys, you just make a few clicks and it pulls up exactly what you're looking at in front of you.
Awesome, thank you.
I have one question for you, Dave. It's like, what's the most like off the wall interesting question you were able to answer with just within Taiga related to vendor negotiations? Like, anything ever come up where you're like I don't even know where to find that or where that could be, and like just curious, and did we hit the mark on it or not?
Right. I mean, I think for me, it's being able to deep dive. I mean, just like the slide that you have up right now. I mean, you click on Monster Energy, and then it takes you over to product scorecard, and now you can go as far down in the rabbit hole as you want to go on those things. I think I haven't. To answer your question, I've probably been more surprised from the actual data, to be honest, to where you think that this product is performing at this level. And then when you start diving into it, and again, it's just a couple of clicks and you've got that at your fingertips. And now you're able to see, and I'm going to go back to the Zen Velo scenario. I had no idea that transition had happened. I mean, that was huge. I mean,
yeah, it was.
when you're
I remember you came in and showed me that, Dave.
Yeah, it was.
That was definitely an aha moment.
and again, I mean, pre-Taiga, I mean, when I was pulling scan data, it was very, very time consuming. I was asking one of the employees in the office to pull the data for me and then to try to get it in the format to where I could use it the way I wanted to. And now that has changed so dramatically. And not only from sitting in here working with vendors, but then also at store level. I mean, I can't tell you the last time I was at store level that I did not pull up Taiga for something. Now it could be sales related, it could be transaction related. When you're looking at how many transactions did we do at the drive-through at this location? You have a store manager saying, "Hey, I need more hours," and then you pull that up, and in a couple of seconds you're looking right at the data, and maybe they do it, maybe they don't. But that's probably for me the biggest thing. Is just the surprise of the data that you just get that shock value sometimes.
Yeah, you mentioned the Zen Velo. Like it still fascinates me. Like those categories, like that for pouches, and then the energy drinks and stuff. But like it just takes one influencer to say I only drink this XYZ flavor of Bloom or Alani or whatever, and all of a sudden sales just go complete opposite direction of what you thought it was going to go. So
yeah, I mean, it is.
It really matters in those categories to have that timely data to be able to be nimble with it, because it's wild how easily it moves with the wind.
It is. And, anytime I meet with a vendor, one of the, especially a new vendor, one of the first questions that they'll always ask is, what can we do for you? And I always have the same answer. I'm looking for a partner. I'm not looking for a relationship with a vendor or manufacturer. I want a partnership. And, when you look at Red Bull, and this is a prime example, when you look at their market share and how they have grown over the last 18 months, well, that is, and I'll give a shout out to our new rep. I mean, that is the partnership that he and I have created and the new promotions that he and I have put together. And now I can pull that and I can show him the trend of, okay, this is where we started and this is where we are today. And look at how much your market share has grown. And John, it's amazing how much they are willing to participate with you even more. So they do want to do more promotions and be more aggressive. So
you're able to reciprocate with them, like give them that data, help them to be better, and then they're going to bring it right back to you. To have those vendor partners engaged, being data driven with you is just amazing. Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
So that flows nicely into the next. I know we've covered a little bit of this already, but when it comes to category management and planograms and all those types of things, and working with your vendors, they want as much space as possible. How do you work with them to get there? And then specifically here, you guys have a Kate's Kitchen example that's mentioned here to share. If Dave, if you want to talk through that specifically, we would love it.
Well, the Kate's Kitchen would be Alan's category.
Oh, Alan, you're going to talk about that one?
Yeah, let me drive Kate's Kitchen. So what are we looking at here? Let me zoom in here.
So this is really talking about planograms and making better category decisions, management decisions.
Yeah, so this is I'm looking at unit sales by day of the month, and basically broken out by category. So this is where I spend most of my time within Taiga when you're talking about item level analysis within a department. So one of the big things, I don't know how easily everyone can see it, but when you're looking at the unit sales, the average basket, time of day, item sales by hour, monthly sales, item frequency, all those different tabs, each one of those gives you a different way of presenting your information. So when you're looking at this, and it gives you a great visual of what does any one item make up for that entire department. So when you're talking for Kate's Kitchen in our lunch program, the pink item there is the double cheeseburger. So pretty easily there, that visual shows you that double cheeseburger makes up a large percentage of our overall sales. And you can see how those trend from day to day to day. And one of the things that Taiga has done really well right from the beginning is the ability to manipulate your time window. So whether I want to look at just yesterday, whether I want to look at this week, last week, month to date, quarter to date, year to date, most of that is all just hyperlinks. It's literally 2 clicks of a button, and then you can kind of expand out the time, and then you can kind of drill down the time. And then stores. For us, we have 25 stores, 10 with Kate's Kitchen. You can start breaking that out all the way to everybody that has it. You can break that out to any one store. You can do a group of stores. It's a series of 3 or 4 clicks. And I mean, I don't know how much money Taiga spends on servers. That cannot be a cheap number, but the speed of which this continually updates, you're not sitting there. I mean, I'll grab, if you looked at further down on this, which I know you can't hear, but hypothetically, if this was the actual website and you scroll down and you have a timestamp and you want to grab the timestamp of any one individual item, now that is where I kind of use it for the AI side of Taiga. I grab the timestamp of every item year to date and a series of flags, whether that be loyalty, whether that be margin, whether that be cost. And when you hit submit and you hit email, I mean, it is insane the amount of data that Taiga can send me on a link to an email from a year-to-date data of every time somebody purchased one of these things. And it's really just an extension of whether we want to start playing with some of the links on here and never take it out of the Taiga portal. It is as fast as you can maneuver around the portal.
Awesome. Thank you. John, do you have anything to add on here about how the category management?
Yeah, John, you want to talk about how much you spend on servers?
You don't have to tell us. This is to let you all know we're raising our prices. No.
It's less than my daughters spend on shopping, but I'm just kidding.
John's building a little data center over in Cincinnati.
Yeah. No, it's I mean, it's really all about the design of the data model, that, like, you know, how and why we can do it that way. You know, our team has been doing this sort of thing for going back 20 years. We've been through all the different historical iterations of data warehouse, data lake house design and stuff like that. And we know how to build the sandwich the right way. So and we're going to keep advancing those tools to make sure that they're you know, keeping up and as fast as possible on the latest tech, just like we do with everything else. So
Awesome.
We're all about giving you answers you need now, and that might be year-to-date data like you're talking about there, or you want to see like what has happened in the last 2 minutes, and you know, we want to make that happen for you.
Thank you, John. All right, we're going to go now, and Dave mentioned this a little bit when talking about Red Bull and promotions. But Dave, if you could talk a little bit about promotion analysis and how you use Taiga in regards to setting up different promotions.
Sure.
Maybe what you used to do and how you've changed it, something like that.
Sure. So you can see as you have there selected the 2026 April sign program. So one of the things that we do is we take how we go to market for each specific item. So it may be a 2-for, or it could be a BOGO, or buy one, get one for $1. And then we try to go to market different ways. And then we're able to come back in and pull the data out of the promotion tracking. And then we can compare that and then make a decision. Okay, so when we run this promotion again, what is the best way to go to market? And so that is something that we're doing a deeper dive into as we speak. We recently just hired a new marketing merchandising manager. And so she and I have been working on that. And that is something that is a personal goal of mine, to try to do a better job of evaluating that data and adjusting accordingly.
Very, very cool. John, do you have anything about how promotion analysis works from the Taiga standpoint or the back end?
Well, I guess it's just like what we've discussed on the other things. You know, we try to give you that drill down ability to get all the way down. So you want to see, you know, down to the individual offer and individual transaction. We can, you know, get all the way down to the nitty-gritty detail of, you know, a specific promotion, but then also backing it out and say, okay, you know, how am I doing on 2-fers? How am I doing on this promotion across stores and all those sorts of things. As one caveat I would kind of add to it, and a big challenge with promotional data is on the point of sale side of things, you don't necessarily always have all that context there. You know, you've got your loyalty provider and you're setting up loyalty offers in there, and then you've got everybody offers going through your back office to point of sale. You know, it's really nice to have a system like Taiga where all that's combined in one data model together. And so if you've got, you know, your loyalty provider providing offer activity, and you've got your point of sale within Taiga, that's all in one system together. So you can see apples to apples across loyalty promotions, non-loyalty promotions, and all those sorts of things down to that offer level detail in that same interface here that Dave and Alan are talking about.
Perfect. All right. Next topic is a big one for everybody in the industry, loss prevention. So we know shrink is a huge challenge for C-stores. And we would like to get some examples from you all about how you're using the data that you see in Taiga to help minimize that issue. I was just on training this morning where we were talking through loss prevention, and it's always an eye-opening module to go through for lots of different reasons. When people are actually able to see, what's been manually entered, what's been scanned, what different cashiers are doing, things like that. So if you all could go through this particular example is the date of birth transaction tracking. And how Taiga flags that. But if you want to talk a little bit about loss prevention, that would be great.
Dave, you want to start?
One of you can do.
If you want to go ahead and go. I mean, this was actually Alan's idea, and this has been a huge time saver on the LP side. So I don't want to steal your thunder here. I'll let you go ahead and speak to it.
Yeah, and this is Alan's idea that everybody is getting the benefit of too, because we came up.
Well, the versionless software, that's a very great use case. I agree. So, I don't know when, time evades me sometimes, but I don't remember how long we would go from this. But before we had this, it was a series of, I guess one thing I would state, we as a company have set a policy that everybody has to give their birthday. I think it seems like it's becoming pretty standard in the industry. So whether you're 12 years old or 12, whether you're 25 years old or 80 years old, you need to give us a birth date to purchase an age restricted item. And one tendency for when our associates aren't following that policy, they tend to, for speed, do the exact same one repeatedly. And it could be a 11111, or because the associate's the one entering that birthday, they could it'll be a repetitive number. So once we implemented the policy of asking for the birth date, we very rarely ever failed age restricted stings. But it's not that they went away. And time again, we would fail a sting. And time again, it was the associate entering their own birthday or entering 11111, whatever it was. So we started spot checking through the register receipts, trying to find that pattern. And trying to find a birthday pattern of a company that has 400 employees buying age-restricted items. I mean, it's the definition of a needle in a haystack. It's, you want to try to fix it, but it is almost impossible to try to identify trends like that in a large database. So that's when we went to Taiga, and it's very similar to the first thing I brought up. Hey, we have this problem. How can we find a solution? And John, I'm going to let you explain the solution, but this is what we do. It spots these trends, and we can, at a moment's notice, find these. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, so it really just, addressing the problem Alan's talking about, like, people are creative and trying to be efficient in what they're doing, and they'll put the same thing in over and over again. It might be the same day of the year for their birth date, or whatever today is 18 or 21 is, or 25, or whatever the policy marker is, and then so being able to catch that across the different permutations of those birth dates, it might, they might enter their birth month and day, and the year for 18 for tobacco, and then the year for 21 for cigarettes, for alcohol, and being able to catch that across all those different things. We kind of took those ideas in our discussions with Alan, and kind of went and talked to some other partners as well, and then build up a whole dashboard suite around it. So there's ones that are focusing on specifically age restriction, catching bypasses, maintaining scan rates, all those sorts of things, depending on what your policy could be, and then put it in a nice, easy package where you can build an operational plan around that for, this is where we need to introduce more training. This is this might be something that's a DM activity. It might be a store manager activity. It might be both levels. And then you've got the DM referencing that and in the performance appraisals for the store manager. So trying to make it so that it works at those scales. Once we started going on that, then we started like, okay, well, what other ways can we help to address these operational training needs? And so now today we've got a whole suite of dashboards and reports that are all centered around cashier performance and associate level performance, everything from integrating your labor information and how many refunds they do, payouts, all that sort of stuff that we've taken as additional feedback as we just get recursively go back through and try to say how can we make this better, how can we provide better information to the operations teams so that they can find these needles in haystacks.
Yeah, I think this is a perfect example of actionable data. There's, you guys aren't creating anything that I could not get access to at some point in time, but it's before it's unusable data. It might as well have been unusable data. So it's packaging the data in a presentable format. Where are the opportunities to make real world change in your company? That this changed because of something that we worked with you. So, I have a lot of conversations with people in our industry, specific around Taiga, but mostly around data management. And they'll ask me like, how do you do this? How do you do this? And I always say, and this is how we kind of work with Taiga, is don't try and come up with a solution. Just tell them your problem. And that's what we did here. I didn't know that Taiga was going to figure it out in this format. I just told them what we were doing and how it wasn't working. It was John and Taiga that said, here, I think we can take care of that.
There's no doubt the efficiency that this has created, both internally and then the accuracy of the data that we're looking at. I mean, it's just night and day difference compared to where we were.
And that's one thing that I'll go off script here for a second about regarding the data accuracy, and maybe John, you can weigh in on this. But when we start with new clients, oftentimes, most every time in the process of doing the QA between, once we connect Taiga to your point of sale and your price book, we go through a QA process and we want to make sure everything's mapped correctly. And at that point, we often find some discrepancies between possibly, what comes in through point of sale versus what's in the, how price book is set up. And it can be alarming, but that's the point of this, is getting to accurate data. Yeah, part of the process. It's getting the accurate data. So there may be things that you don't realize are going on. We had one big example with a client that was using their car wash information. They were getting just the data that the car wash company was providing them, but then when we actually got it hooked up to Taiga, we could see that wasn't those numbers did not jive, and that opened up another conversation of what what's the truth with the data and what data is accurate. So John, would you mind talking just a few minutes about that process and what that entails and why it's a little painful, but in the end it makes all the difference?
Yeah, so we're all about trying to make sure you've got accurate data as complete as possible. And so we don't just look at it like pulling from like a single source, maybe it's transactions or whatnot. Like, we're trying to make sure that we can validate it against alternate sources to make sure that there's a consistent whole view of the truth. And so sometimes, depending on where you're starting from, there's different building steps along that way to make sure that it's everything's complete. You might have previously been working with information that was only granular to monthly or weekly or whatever, or only specific to a handful of categories versus transaction level, item level detail, offer level detail when it comes to, say, something like sales. We put a lot of effort into that process from the very beginning to make sure that we're getting you to a full and complete set for your data, being honest with you about where you are and best practices on how you can improve on that, so that maybe you didn't have that level of detail a year ago and we're starting at that point, but we certainly want you to be as complete as possible, so that when that, when those issues come up and those opportunities come up where that data is very valuable to you, you can act on it, versus having to tell you that, well, you don't have that data point. So we go through a very extensive process with all of our customers as they're coming on board to make sure price book matches up with sales, and sales matches up with labor, and sales matches up with loyalty, and if you had a historical source for sales, making sure that matches up to what's coming off your point of sale, because sometimes people have multiple point of sale systems and maybe one wasn't going in there before and stuff like that. So we like to really put a fine tooth comb to those things, because we want to make sure that everybody's data is not perfect, but it doesn't mean that we can't work together to make it so that you get more perfect every day.
Yeah, John, I think that is a very underrated part of your company, and very unappreciated just in general as a concept, where typically the larger the data size, the more likely there may be from errors. And not only are you dealing with a large data sample, you're also dealing with that data coming in from multiple avenues. And I remember when we first started with you guys, we were constantly, hey, double check. And so we were we're with NCR, and so we pulled the register receipts, and we'd be spot checking and doing all these things. And eventually you build that level of trust to the point that very rarely am I double checking at this point. But, if you can't trust the data coming in, then at the end of the day, you didn't accomplish anything. So it took a little bit for us to build a level of trust with you guys. Not anything that you did. It's just, it's crazy how much data is in there. And then now that you've got that level, now we are trying to build that level of trust with AI. So it's crazy how often we have to spot check what AI spits out. And I'll say, the food service one that Jennifer had pulled up earlier, I'll look and it'll say it sold 12 cheeseburgers at this store in one day. And I'm like, well, I see that I sold 16. And then it'll look and say,
oh, you're right, Alan.
Never mind, you're right. Yeah, I thought that was cheeseburgers, not double cheeseburgers. Literally, something as, and so when you start losing that level of faith, then you're not going to do anything with the data.
Right. Yeah. And then, even though at some point, we build up trust and you're not looking, doesn't mean we stopped looking. So
yeah, exactly. Well, you better keep looking. I'm trusting you to look, John.
Every single day, we're pulling in the real-time transactions. We're validating against the daily audits. If there's an alternate source we're connected to, say like your back office market basket or something, we're validating against that too and running audits against those things. And so we take a great deal of care with data integrity.
Yeah, and that's fantastic. If we had to double check your data every single time, then you
wouldn't be able to get anywhere. Yeah,
exactly. And so, but you, Taiga, as with anybody else, you have to earn that trust, and you guys have absolutely earned that level of trust with Meyer Company.
Thank you. That means that's awesome. That means a lot to us. We appreciate it. All right, so we are getting close to about 10 minutes before the top of the hour. We were able to get through all of the use cases that we had listed in this presentation. This last slide just talks about how Taiga runs in the background of a lot of different things: performance reviews, waste reduction, labor planning. Is there anything on this list, Dave or Alan or John, that you would like to go into a little bit more depth? This would be the time to do it, and then we'll start opening it up for some questions. If there's any of these you want to talk about that you've used, or
I can speak to a couple, then you guys can take her, John or Dave. For me, the three in the bottom is kind of where I think labor is the biggest correlation to profitability in anybody in our industry. So, and that can go two ways. If you're understaffed, that can cost you as much money as if you're overstaffed. But the amount of data you have to comb through to make sure you're properly staffed. One, it takes forever. Two, if it takes you forever to do it, you can't do it very often, and we have so much seasonality. What blows me away with our business is, to me, there's two things that are more critical to the success of our company than anything else. There's labor, and what do we sell our gas for? And it is insane what percentage of our industry uses their gut to determine both of those evaluations. And that blows my mind. I mean, those are the top two KPIs for it. So specific to labor, we have about half our company in self-checkout. We have about half our company not on self-checkout. Both of those models, we use your platform to gauge how well our labor is used. So the number one responsibility that our associates have is taking care of our customers. We, generally speaking, treat a customer buying a 12-pack of beer, a soda, or a bag of candy as the same customer because it's the same interaction. Typically, it's the same length of time. What they're buying and the number of products generally isn't going to vary that greatly. So what we do is look at transaction counts. And we would pull those in before you guys, we would pull those in mass. It takes somebody over a day to pull those in. We would come through those and we would start manipulating the schedule to kind of match our associates with when our customers are there. And then before that, we would let our store managers determine their own schedule, which, I mean, I think that's an absolute terrible idea. So if anybody wants to speak to that, they're more than welcome to call me. But let the data tell you what you want to do. And then waste reduction, food service. So for me, once we got the production data points in, and then you can create the sales from Taiga, and you got your item cost from Taiga. It can tell you everything you want under the sun for food service. I mean, we basically, once we were able to grab a timestamp of our grab and go program, just that timestamp in Taiga basically gives us a full-blown P&L that I can run at any given time I want for any location I want over any time period. So.
Awesome. Thank you.
Very impressive.
Dave or John, anything else before we go to questions?
Oh, I can speak to a couple. I'm on to the labor planning. In addition to what Alan mentioned, for me, it really shows up at store level, as I mentioned earlier. When you get to store level and excuse me, and you're looking at possibly the standards not being met or the appearance of the store not being met. And usually one of the first excuses that you get is, oh, we've been really busy, or, we don't have enough labor to do what you're asking us to do. So it's very easy to pull up not only the sales information, but as Alan spoke to, more importantly, the transaction numbers. And you can look at the transaction numbers and you can quickly tell, because you can go all the way down by hour and you can see exactly what was taking, okay, all right, well, you were correct. You were probably understaffed here, or no, data says you did have time. And the other thing I'd speak to would be the novelty planning. And that's something that's really been a big focus for us here recently. And trying to, historically, we've not done a very good job of creating in our own price book on how to drill down the specific SKUs. So we're in the process of streamlining that. And then Alan and I have been talking about, how we're going to move forward with our novelty and being able to better assess the data that we have. Because when it comes into novelty, obviously it's high margin, but a lot of it is very trendy. So if you're not there when it starts, or if you stay too long, then you're missing out on opportunity. So being able to streamline that and be able to pull the data that we can actually act upon, like I said, right now, that's a pretty high priority for us.
Awesome. All right, let's get in. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Alan. Let's get into some questions. So please drop those in the chat. We have a couple that have come through already, so I'll direct these to the right folks. The first one, this would be, I guess this could go to any of you, but let's push this to, I think, Alan, how about this is for you. The question is, we are very new to Taiga. We want to get the most bang for our buck. Where would you tell us to start? Which one of the use cases has the fastest payoff?
Well, I think that's so hard to answer without having a conversation now. I think it's like, where do you see
part two? When they call you, this would be part two.
the one thing I just did a education session, a speaking session not too long ago, and they said, what is the number one thing you would urge anybody in your industry to do? And to me, it's about networking. So, all of us in our industry, one, everything you do is within your own ecosystem. So if you don't branch outside of your company, how could you possibly have any context to what's good, bad, or indifferent? I would tell you labor, but the person that wrote that question may be the best at managing the labor costs in the industry. And maybe I want to talk to that person and say, holy cow, well, how did you come up with that format to implement that policy? And to me, what I strongly urge them, and they're welcome to call me, and it could be a thing where we just start bouncing ideas back and forth. And what we're trying to do is identify our problems together, and then we start sharing best practices. I think a couple things about our industry. One, it's amazing how far behind from a technology perspective our industry is relative to other brick and mortar retail. That will never fail to blow me away.
Yep.
Two, we are the most helpful industry that I guarantee you other industries and other retail channels don't actively try to help their peers out. And that's because we're so fragmented, and we're mostly a family business type of industry. Mm-hmm. So I think first and foremost, before I would say any one metric or any one KPI, I would figure out where you struggle in the industry relative to your peers. And I'll just give my example. I did study groups as a peer group, and we started sharing certain financials. And you compare that to your peer group, and there was some things that I thought we were really good at that we absolutely sucked at. So that was definitely a, oh man, type of moment for me. And it can be study groups, or it can be just having those conversations and see where you differentiate yourself.
That's great. Great advice. John, you look like you're about to say something.
I agree on all points there.
Okay. Good.
Take it introspectively, go network with your peers, figure out where you feel that you're struggling at, and chances are it's a problem that other people have some advice on, and this is a very helpful industry.
Exactly. John, I always tell everybody.
Everybody was giving each other hands up. So
I've never created a single thing in my life. I never did anything. I just said, oh man, that's a good idea. Let's go steal that guy's idea. But then here's an idea I got here, and you do that, and then we're all better together.
Yep.
And we can help facilitate that too. If we've done that before, as you're working with us, if there's something that is particularly worrisome for you, or you want to get better in, and we have a client that is really doing great in that area, I have yet to have anybody say no, they won't talk to you. So we can connect you with our clients as well. You can talk not just about the Taiga stuff and how you utilize Taiga for those issues, but even just different connections in the industry. I know that Alan we had connected him with one of our other clients recently, and they were able to hit it off at one of the shows they were at. So stuff like that, we're definitely here to help facilitate as well.
Yeah, I think one thing real quick, I don't think you should think of Taiga as a vendor-customer relationship. I mean, I think you should truly think of it as a partnership. So they're not just a data software company. They're there to try to identify where your weaknesses are at and figure out a way to make them better. So I strongly agree. Or go to reach out to Taiga and say, hey, I'm really struggling with this. Do you have anybody else in the industry that may be able to help me out with that? They're a great connector in that way.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, we have one more question we have time for, and anything else that's here, we'll email out to you. But this was for John specifically for customers that are early stage. So this is, along the same lines, and this is not from the same person. What do you see as a mistake that people are making when they get started, and any, advice on? Looks like it's biggest mistake people make when they're getting started with Taiga. What can we do to prevent that from happening? So they'd like to know what some of the roadblocks are and how to get around this.
Probably the biggest one is jumping in too fast and too far out. When we implement a new customer partner on Taiga, there's a whole process that we go through with you to try to help you kind of, we call it the walk before you run type of approach. It's really important to follow that process. A lot of folks, when they first see some of the things that are in Taiga that are way out there as far as like things that like you're going to be capable of doing, they kind of tend to get distracted by those, and they miss on a number of very good quick wins. So I guess it's, I'd say probably the biggest early misstep is getting too excited and then running off onto a tangent and missing some things that could have been really great for you. So,
thank you. That's my big spiel that I give on the kickoff call. Follow the process. All right, we are just over the top of the hour. I really appreciate it. Mach 1, Alan and Dave, you guys have done a tremendous job here, and we appreciate the partnership that we have with you all. For all of those who are attending, if you have any, I think I have one more slide here. If you need more information, that's my contact info and John's, excuse me. And we will also be sending this out to everybody that attended or signed up, and look forward to hearing from all of you and getting to work with everybody and making this industry move and shake. We're excited. So thank you, everybody.
Thanks,